Do you want to create GUIs that look like this or this in Java? If you stick around till the end of the series, you'll be able to create nice looking desktop app with Java. So let's go.
Hi guys, and welcome to day 2 of the series. Through the rest of the series, we'll work on creating a restaurant app that looks almost like this. As you can see, I have my IntelliJ opened and I've already created a new project, but there is nothing in the project. The project name is Restaurant GUI. Now, let's start by creating a package inside our source folder. I will name the package app, and inside my app package, let me create a new class. I will name it main, just like that. And inside the app package, I will create another package. I will call it login, because on today's tutorial we'll be working on the login page. So that's why we've created this login package. So in the main package, in the main class, we will have our main method, just like that. So as a convention, let's display something on the console to make sure that everything is working. Let's run this. There we go. We have our hello world in the console, so it's working. Okay, right. So since we want to design the login page using a GUI, how do we first call a GUI? So before we go into the login page, let's first try to display a GUI here inside our main class by creating an object of JFrame is equal to new JFrame, just like that. Now, if I run this, you will see nothing. Why? Because we did not set the visibility of our frame. So for us to be able to see the frame, we first need to set its visibility. Let's call the frame dot set visible to true. Now let's run and see if we're gonna see something. We have something here. So let's see if I can actually move it. Well, it's too small that I can't even move it. So what we need to do is to set the size of our frame as well. So we set frame.set size, let's say 200 by 200. You can see this is the width and this is the height. And let's run it again. There we go. Here we have our window. So if you remember from the last tutorial, we said that the frame has these buttons here and this icon and plus the title. So we did not set the title. That's why we have nothing here. We can set the title, frame.set title to hello world. If we run it again, there we go. This is our hello world here. So we have the icon, the hello world, and plus the frame. So guys, this is how easy it is to have a frame in Java. In just 4 lines of code, we were able to have our frame in Java. So the goal of this tutorial is not to have a frame only, but we want to have a login page. So we're gonna go ahead and delete this, and let's go inside the login package. We'll create a new class. We'll call this class login view. Let's call it login view. The reason I'm calling it login view is because in this class we mostly only have the GUI components in this class. That's why I called it view. So let's go ahead and generate the constructor by pressing Alt and Insert on your keyboard. there we go, we have our constructor. Now, since we are dealing with GUIs or with JFrame here, we can either create an object of JFrame here, as we did in the main class, or we can rather extend JFrame here so that we can use all the components or all the methods that are inside the JFrame class without having to create an object of JFrame. So we're gonna go ahead and use the extended JFrame. So now we need to set the size, the title, and the visibility, just as we did in the main class. So I'm gonna say this dot set size. Let's make it 350 by 400, and this dot set title. This is the login page, so it's gonna be login, and then this dot set visibility, as you get, we're gonna set it to true for our frame to be visible. So this is referring to the JFrame. This refers to the JFrame. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go into the main class, and I'm gonna call a new login view. Small O, new login view, just like that. Now, if I run this, we have our frame or our window here, which is called login. Now let's go back to our login class. So what we want is to have a username field, a password field, and a button which will allow the user to submit his information so that he can go on the dashboard. So to do that, on the JFrame, if you remember from the last tutorial, on the JFrame, all these components are sitting on top of the JFrame. Okay, so since we will have multiple components that we would like to add on top of the JFrame, there is actually containers that help us contain multiple components, and then we can then use that container and add that container into our JFrame. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to create a method here. It will be private. It will return a JPanel, and I will call it component. It doesn't have to be a component, or you don't have to create a new method here. You could have created a JPanel straight from here. You could have created a JPanel straight from here, but the reason why I'm putting it inside outside of my constructor is because we're gonna have a lot of components, and it's gonna be a little bit messy. So this is just for clarity purposes. I can delete this. Now this must return, of course, a JPanel, but we don't have a JPanel yet. I'm gonna return null for now. Now, so we said we wanted to have a JText field that will take the username. So I'm going to create a JText field here. We call it username field is equal to new JText field. And then we also wanted to have a JPassword field. JPassword field. This will be password field is equal to new JPassword field. And then we also wanted to have a JButton. I will call it button. Since we only have one button on this page, new JButton. If you remember from the last tutorial, we say that a button can either have a text only, or a text and an image, or an image only. Now in our case, we want a button that has the text only. So on the text, we will say login. So this is what we want to have on our button. We want our button to say login. So yeah, we've added, we've created our 3 components. that we need to add this component inside a panel. So I'm going to go ahead and create a JPanel here. JPanel, panel, just like that. And then I can say here, panel dot add. I'm going to add the username field. I can press Ctrl D to duplicate the line. So username, the password field, and then the button. And of course, return the panel now. Now, since we have a JPanel here, and the JPanel is a component, we can therefore add this JPanel to our JFrame. So we'll say this dot add. We'll just add the components we've created. Now, if I run it again, there we go. We have our components. You can see we have our JText field, our JPassword field, and our button, which says login. Now, the reason why you can't see it properly is because we didn't set the size. So this is the default size. Now let's go back and set the size of our JText field first. Username dot set preferred size. It takes a dimension, new dimension. Now let's say 200 by 25 perhaps. Okay, I'll just copy this line and do the same for the password field. Password field, let's set the size. I'll also do the same for the button so that all of them have the same size. Now if I run it again, there we go. So you can see our components are here. We have our text field, our password field, and our button. Now I'm gonna close this, but if you noticed, as I'm closing, the program here keeps on running, is not stopping. So for us to stop the program as soon as we click on close, we need to set the default this dot set the default close operation to exit on close. So I'm gonna run it again and you will see what will happen. Now if I close now, you will see that the program will also stop. So don't forget to add this whenever you are setting up your JFrame. Okay guys, one thing before we go, let me run the program again. We can actually add some label here, one that will say username and the other one that will say password. So let's go ahead and add two labels. We'll create a J label. Let's call it username, new J label. This will say username and Control D to duplicate. This will be password label, just like this. And this will say password. And then we just need to add these two labels to our panel. Let's say panel.add username and then duplicate panel.add password label. I want to show you one thing. Let me run this. Okay, now you see the two labels I've added are next to each other, but that's not what we want. We want one label to be next to this text field and the other label be next to the password field. So the order at which you add the label to the panel matters. So how we do that? We first want to have the label, the username label, and then the username text field, and then we want to have the password label, and then the password field. Now if I run it again, you see I have the username label next to the username text field and the password label next to the password text field. But then there is still one problem we are facing here, is the layout. The layout is not constant. As we are expanding the frame, the layout is also changing. So in the next tutorial, we'll be looking at how to keep the layout constant, even if the user is expanding the frame. So thanks guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any upcoming content.